So this is Baruch Fleischman. I'm at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, and here we're coming around to another shir in the great work of Rebbe Nachman. Now, over here where we've been discussing confession, but we got to a strange story. We got to a story about a man who's walking on the path in darkness. He doesn't know where he's going. He doesn't know what's around him and surrounding. So come over here. We'll see a little bit of the notes said. Let's just read the notes. He says, along this person, and we said this person, then he saw a torch, and the torch showed him that he was on a path, and though he knew that he wasn't going to fall into the ditches and so on and so forth, and at the same time, he came to a crossroads. Crossroads, the story said that he represents the Talmud Chacham and the day of death. It's just a little bit mysterious. So we're going to read number 77. It says like this. The sages said, Rebbe Nachman has explained that confession in the Tzadik's presence elevates Malchus. So elevates Malchus means we live in Malchus. We live in the lowest part of Malchus, the Malchus of Malchus, or maybe even another Malchus way down there. The elevation of the darkness in which we find ourselves, the person who is walking along this path, is a darkness. He doesn't even know where the path goes. In other words, it's my life. Do I know where I'm headed with my life? So he says this is that confession allows this malchus, this lowness, this emptiness that we feel, and he's going to explain, and the fear that we have, to raise it up to its source. That's an important thing. He said that is the elevates malchus. It is a means for rectifying one's sins, and so therefore the darkness in which we find ourselves is really as a result of sins that we've done. So as here the Rebbe shows that repentance is actually a three-step process. Two things must happen prior to confession. So he says, and where are we here? In clarifying these steps, the Rebbe shows how they are alluded to in this particular Talmudic passage. And he says it's come from the Sota, number 21a, page 21, side A. Talmud states that both the study of Torah and the performance of mitzvos have the power to protect the person. Both of those things have the power to protect the person. Yet our sages differentiate between the two, discussing which is the greater and how far-reaching that protective merit is. The notes that explain this passage incorporate the commentaries of Rashi and the Maharan. Now this person, he's going to go through this a little bit for us here. He says, he's walking in utter darkness of night. He's on a path. Night alludes to this world, which troubles abound, in which troubles abound. A person must search for his livelihood, thorns the vegetation, and beware of the pitfalls set by his enemies, which are possibly going to attack him. It's all different kinds of things. He finds a lit torch. This refers to the mitzvos, which help a person to a certain degree because they can allow a person to solidify himself. It's my thinking. Number 80, he wild beasts and bandits. So he's safe from the wild beasts and bandits, alluding to the evil inclination's ability to overwhelm one's power of intellect, your desires and your taivas. And then dawn broke. This refers to the Torah's ability to enlighten a person's way, helping him overcome the obstacles that prevent him from serving God. Now here's the real punchline here, coming here. He comes to a crossroads. The crossroads is the Talmud Chacham and death. Now, first of all, you could see right away. What is the Talmud Chacham and death? One way you go, did you mean go before the Talmud Chacham? And the other way in the crossroads is to go to death? What does this mean? Even someone who possesses Torah knowledge can err. The person therefore needs a true Torah scholar who will direct him properly. The Talmud offers two other explanations for crossroads. So this is trying to understand what this crossroads. So crossroads means you can go right, you can go left. So number one is a Torah scholar and fear of sin. Number two, a Torah scholar who reaches the proper conclusions in deciding Torah laws. So I'm not sure exactly what he meant to say there. He says the crossroads would be a Torah scholar who is maybe developed into a Torah scholar as a result of fear of sin. And then there's another when we ask a shaila, a Torah scholar, who reaches the proper conclusions in deciding Torah laws. We will soon see that both these explanations are synonymous with Rebbe Chisda's interpretation of Torah scholar and the day of death. So there's more to be seen about this. So he says, Rebbe Nachman will now review the lesson in the context of our sage's parable. Now we're going to go through all of these different things. Note that in the parable, Torah and mitzvos are spoken of as the power to combat pitfalls and evil desires of the night. Now, night means many things, as we saw before. It refers to our evil desires. It refers to the world in which we live, which is strewn in darkness. So as well as finding proper direction during the day. We have previously seen that by elevating Malchus to its source, and this is the idea, where do the bad things and the scary things in my life come from? Who can bring me a remedy for the darkness of my life? A person can rectify even those errors and pitfalls to which he has succumbed by what? By elevating Malchus. God, you did not create yourself, or you were not born into the circumstances of your life by yourself. All coming from one place. If you find your circumstances are not good, then we have to understand that this is coming from what we call the Roma Ma'al, the highest of the high. The Ein Sof Baruch Hu. How's it get here? How's it look like this? We have to return that fear back to him. As the Rebbe's lesson unfolds, we will see how closely Torah and mitzvos are intertwined, how they're intertwined with the process of repentance and confession in the presence of a true Torah scholar. Because the true Torah scholar can open the door for us. That is his life, to open up the door. Now let's go on. Let's see, where did I stop? Let me hold for a second. Let me try to find my place. I'll be right with you. Okay, so I wanted to go through this one more time because he's about to go into more detail about the different things that the person is saved from at different times, or the things that he is worried about, that we worry about in our path through life. So the first one is melancholy. He says melancholy comes from the mineral life form. What's a mineral life form? A rock, dirt, mountains, all part of one thing. So he says this leads to melancholy, which is depression. Feel like you can't do it. You're lost in the darkness and you'll never get out. Stems from earth. Earth doesn't move. The mineral life form, which corresponds to the black humor, it's also black, and the earth is dry, cold, and inanimate. Now this is also brought, this is not something easy for me to relate to, so I'm trying to construct in my mind different ways to understand what's being said. So the earth is basically down. That's its nature. He says it's black, a black humor. Now evil passions, tivos, we call it in Hebrew, vegetable life form. They come from the vegetable life form. Now what do vegetables have to do with evil passions? Evil passions stem from water, the vegetable life form. Now why is water the vegetable life form? But he says from the vegetable, I'll just skip the water right here for a minute. The vegetable life form, which corresponds to the green humor and is damp, cold, and animate. Damp, cold, and animate. He says water and the vegetable life form, both of them. Water moves. Of course, it's damp, it's wet. Become cold, unless you live in Florida, and animate and moving. Those are evil passions. Damp, cold, and animate, and green. Next. Then he talks about idle chatter. So this, we said that there is an animal form. Now there are other ways that these letters, these four different humors correspond also to Yud Kei Vav Kei. They correspond to different Malachim. It's a deep subject, not one of my highest levels, so I'm trying to learn it. So idle chatter is the animal life form. The idle chatter stems from air, the animal life form, which corresponds to the white humor. It's damp and hot. Idle chatter, the breath that comes out of your mouth. Its derivatives include flattery, in other words, creating false illusions, falsehood, which is a right straight out lie, slander, saying bad things about people, and then self-praise, of course, trying to make your own image. These are all things that have to do with creating images and illusions and possibly delusions. Pride, that's the last one. That comes from human beings, our life form. Where's pride come from? Pride stems from fire. You get yourself worked up. The human life form, which corresponds to the red humor and is dry and hot. Fire. Its derivatives include anger. Well, you could see fire in there. Haughtiness, yep. And hatred, the worst of them. The Hebrew term for the human life form is medaber, speaker, which literally means speaker. Medaber, that word, connotes the level of man because the ability to speak is uniquely human. So medaber has to do with the breath coming out of our mouths, which is hot. So let's see what the Rebbe does here. I might be a little bit off, and I think we'll stop here, and this will be the shir for today, and we'll see that tomorrow that we'll pick up further discussion. Baruch Fleischman, Tikkun Elevator Kolel.